You're listening to SM Media.
Hi, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Rest View right here on SM Media. I'm Scott Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. And we're a man short this week. Steve is not doing it
Not
with
for the
us this
first
week.
time.
Not for the first time. Probably won't be for the last either. But no,
Oh, and I'm just talking about in general, nothing to do with the show. I'm just saying he's a man short when we go for nights out or we go anywhere. He's the man short. Nothing to do with the show.
but you will see Steve isn't with us tonight. But we hope Des provides double the fun. Des, welcome as always, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. At least I'll
Right.
get your name right.
Yeah, I mean, I've had Sean, quite a few people have messaged me going, nice to chat to you, Sean. I'm like, I've never thought in my life I'd be called Sean, but so. We'll go with that, and we will go straight to the games. Busy Sunday again. I'm quite glad this is going back to normal next week, where we've got Saturday games and Saturdays and things like that. Don't like the Thursday Sunday
Nah,
for the full
no.
fixtures. I can deal with it
Eclipse.
for certain games, but no for 6 games on a Sunday because we record on the Monday night. We like to try and get the show out on a Sunday, and it's just impossible at the moment. But we'll hopefully be back to normal next week. We'll start Hibs 3, Rangers 3. Brilliant game if you're a neutral. You're a bag of nerves if you support either side, but massive game. A lot of things to take kind of tactically from both sides, but I think in terms of refereeing decisions, probably two that are sticking out. One maybe more than the other. We'll start with the first one. Mohamed Diamande tackles. I think it's Nicky Cadden.
I think it was, yeah.
It's he does catch him. I don't think there's any doubt he catches him. Yellow isn't given. VAR does check it. Doesn't give anything. I've had a few people messaging me going, "Why is this not a yellow?" But there've also been people saying that's a red card. I've seen them given. Where are we at here?
I
This one.
think for me, it's reckless and dangerous, which therefore falls under the yellow card category. We said at the time you were also chatting in our group, I said I thought Diomande was extremely lucky to get away with that one because we've seen it given numerous times this year. Again, I don't think for a moment that he was going out there to hurt the player. I would like to think that no player intentionally goes out to hurt a player, but there's a difference between a reckless challenge and a serious foul play challenge. If you look at the challenge by Jason Holt up
Yeah,
at St Johnstone last week against Hibs, I mean, he's lunged and he's dived in there. Diamandi's probably overstretched there, but he still has made contact and we've seen it given before. I said at that instant in time that I thought that was worthy of a yellow card and he's got away with one. And the reason VAR can't get involved because they cannot give a yellow card.
yeah.
They can only jump in when it's a clear and obvious error. So John Beaton, at that moment in time, along with the other officials, the two assistants and the fourth official, who could get involved at that moment in time to offer that opinion. But again, John doesn't need to take it because he's the decision maker.
Yeah.
At that moment in time, yeah, I thought that was worthy of a yellow card.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I think it is just a case of that I was looking at it back. I've looked at a few decisions back over the day, and the one thing that sticks out to me is that he catches him, but he doesn't he's not out of control kind of thing. It is just basically a case of I think he does overstretch and just catches him accidentally. I think a yellow is fine. I'm quite surprised a yellow wasn't given, but I'm kind of okay with it. Probably a yellow would have been fair. Right, going on to the one that has got a lot of traction over the past kind of 24 hours was obviously the penalty that Hibs got, the Yanis Hadji and Josh Campbell incident. Yanis Hadji obviously gives away the penalty for Rangers. Hibs get it, make it 2-2 through Martin Boyle. There's been a lot of traction on this, Des. At first I thought it was a penalty. I've watched it back several times and kind of every single time I've seen a new thing where I've been like, is it a penalty? Does Campbell get there first? I'm still sticking to my opinion that it's a penalty because I don't think Hadji needs to make that movement. I think when he does, he gives the referee a decision to make and he instantly makes it. Where are you at with this?
So again, I'll go with my initial thought, and my initial thought was that Hadji had been the one that instigated the foul. As much as it is a very split second and very marginal, but the ball's moving at speed that's in the penalty area. And for me, I just thought that Hadji made the initial contact on Campbell. And through that contact, Campbell's then off balance, because that's what happens when you're running at speed. And if you get a nudge, if Campbell's then had the contact, and that's then propelled him to sort of lose balance, and his legs have then come into Hadji, which potentially then some people may view that as a foul on the Rangers player. Is that a coming together of players? Yes, it is, but it's so marginal. I'm happy that I would have gave that decision, and because you've made that major decision, VAR are then impelled to look at it just to make sure that it's not a clear and obvious error, and they've obviously backed up John from that, which is good to see. It is very marginal. I know Philip Clement has come out and obviously he's unhappy.
I was going to ask about that. What did you think of that?
I think that's someone who has won one game out of the three over Christmas. It was very, very important to him, and his away record is good. Let's not forget, that's only one goal. Rangers still went 3-2 ahead, and Hibs then came back again. But you don't know that as a referee. You can't decide that. That's just obviously after time and seeing how that decision impacted upon the game. But at that moment in time, John had the courage and convictions to give that decision, and that's what you ask of referees. VAR is there as the backup to say, yes, you've got it correct, or no, there's a clear and obvious error. The fact that they've said there's no clear and obvious error, then there is no recourse, and I would agree that I thought it was a penalty kick.
In terms of obviously what Clement said about you can give the foul to both sides, and because basically I'm just going to read verbatim what it says: it's a collision between two players, or even the attacking player maybe on full speed tries to slow down to get a contact. You can give the foul to both sides. I think the way Hadji's hip, if you watch it real slow motion, I understand obviously John Beaton obviously can't see that in real time. VAR obviously can. I think the way Hadji's hip maybe it doesn't bring him down, but it makes his body takes his body off course and maybe interferes with his attempt to play the ball.
Yeah, it's off balance, and if you're off balance, then I don't think he's dived.
No, he's not dived.
Once that contact came, that's then initiated the secondary contact, and for me, the secondary contact is the one that makes Hadji go down. So I think listen, we'll probably get shot down for saying this. People will be saying, I'm a Celtic supporter, or I'm a Hibs supporter, or whatever. No, I'm just giving an honest opinion. And my opinion there at that moment in time was, as much as it was a split-second decision, Hadji made the initial contact, which therefore then put the Hibernian player off balance and initiated the secondary contact. So the first contact, off balance, the player's going down, it's in the penalty area, it's a foul. It doesn't matter if it was... if the contact was a clean swipe, the legs were, it was enough contact to have an impact on the player.
Yeah, I've seen so many people say when we put it out, I saw people saying it's never a penalty in a million years, and I'm like, as I can see, if that's in the halfway line, it's a foul, and nobody's saying anything about it. It's the way they're both coming together. They're both in an attempt to play the ball. One's just there ahead of time and takes the player with them. It's just we'll see it all the time. It's one of those contentious ones that I think overall was the right decision. There was a potential handball on Tiantis that wasn't given. Now, I don't think VAR did check it. Well, they obviously would have checked it, but I don't think it wouldn't have been it wasn't a long one because they literally didn't stop the game or anything like that. If you watch this back, you obviously the one that sticks out is the Brighton Arsenal one, which we have kind of been looking at in depth. It's kind of a similar body movement to that. I don't think the Brighton one's a penalty. To be fair, I'm not keen on that at all. I think that's a bad decision.
Yeah, I think it was a very good decision.
One's given and one isn't. So where are we at here?
I don't think the Chantis one was, and it was purely because you can see that he's throwing his hands up in the air, he's turning his body, it looks to make contact around his pec area and sort of higher ribs area. So I was quite happy that wasn't. I mean, he's lucky. He's very lucky where he was positioned. But no, I don't think that was a handball. I was quite satisfied that there was no error there.
Well, Celtic St Mirren, nothing stood out there. I think it was just a a very, very good Celtic performance, and a performance they probably needed after the result at Ibrox on Thursday. We'll go to the other big game of the weekend, which was Motherwell 2, Aberdeen 0, with a big decision in this that I'm sure will maybe be split on to a degree. Before we get into the Rubezic red card, there was a tackle by Zdarkovsky that VR did check for serious foul play. It wasn't given. I think he's a lucky boy.
Yeah, I think the only thing that can get him around it is there was a lot of congestion because I think Halliday came out injured off the back of there. There was like 4 or 5 players there. Zdarkovsky, I mean, he's down the back of the boy's leg.
That's a
And
bad
he's
one.
very fortunate. I would have thought
that is
VAR,
a booking, to be fair. Like it does give a booking, to be fair.
yeah, so therefore VAR can't then get, but yeah, he's because I think when you actually seen a close up of him, you could see his face was sort of like half expecting, am I going to get away here? He was almost looking like a wee naughty schoolboy.
And it's only 8 minutes in. It's like you're wondering if it's later on. I know obviously that people say you shouldn't think like this, but if it's later on in the game, does that get checked?
What's the impact?
Yeah,
what's the impact on it?
But the big decision obviously was just before half time. There was a red card for Slobodan Rubezic. Coming together is probably the word with Tony Watt. You go first. What do you think? Because we spoke about it off air. It was given by the referee. VAR didn't overturn it. Again, I think it falls into the clear and obvious thing. But before I kind of give my thoughts, what do you think?
So I'm probably going to go against the thing here. I'm going to go for a red card. Right? I'm going to go. I've changed my mind 100 times, but there is nowhere in the laws of the game that states you can use your head against somebody. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Tony Watt has played a major part in it by overstanding the player. But Rubezic, that's how you say his name. Apologies if I'm getting it wrong. Yeah. He's come up. He said, I got him in the chest, and then he's had another wee flick up as well. To me, it's not serious foul play. That's violent conduct. You can't go at somebody.
Is that what the red's given for, violent conduct?
It must be violent conduct. That's all it can be. Can't. Now, I used an analogy. And I get shot down by one of my guys in their group chat. I said, Zinedine Zidane used his head in the World Cup final against Marco Materazzi. Now, Zidane had a lot more force behind him, but he stuck his head right into his chest. Rubezic didn't even look up. Rubezic looked, knew exactly where Tony Watt was, close proximity. See if you're that angry, get up and shove him or whatever. But he's used his head. Now, I'm admitting I've went like a seesaw. I've went up and down looking at it. But the thing that gets it for me, and I'll probably get slaughtered for it, is he's used his head, and you cannot do that anywhere. That's violent conduct. If you'd done that in the streets, and if me and you were out on a Saturday night and we get into a scuffle, and I went and used my head against you, I mean, you can't legislate for that. And I did think, would VAR overturn it? Would VAR think, no, it's just aggression?
Would VAR, if he just goes the handbag route and just books them both, does VAR give a red for that?
It could very, very possibly be, yeah.
Because that's what I'm interested in, because I think it's very, very silly from Rubezic. I think it's something he doesn't need to do. Does Watt make a meal of it? Absolutely. Yeah. I think Watt deserves a yellow card for that.
Can you give a yellow card for being a buffoon?
Yeah, but Rubezic does it. Rubezic, the one conclusion I think this weekend is you put yourself in a position, you give the referee an option, you put the referee in a position to send you off, and most of the time that doesn't go your way. Because if you're putting yourself in that position, you're giving the referee a decision to make. And I don't think VAR is going to disagree with the referee there. That's the thing. Does VAR give it if the referee just gives a yellow and just plays on? I don't know. But he's not. I don't think he's overturning it. I think that's exactly what happens. I don't think he's overturning that because, as you say, it's a forward movement with the head, which is not on.
And he's done it twice. Yeah. He's went in, then he's lifted it. So that's the crux for me. The initial bit is you went to challenge an opponent with your head. As I say, if you looked at Raskan and McGregor last week, and Raskan's grabbed McGregor, right? Fine, no bother. See if he'd went in his head, could be a different story. Rubezic went with his head, and it's not the most powerful. It's not the most. It's not going to. Don't think Tony Watt even didn't need any attention in him, but it's just the mighty stupidity that you're leading with your head, which has
And
got to be
this is
valiant.
the other thing as well. When this is where I'm like, I've been very impressed with Jimmy Tulin since he came in. Not just in terms of the start he had, but just the calmness of him. Where you've seen a lot of foreign managers come in and get on board to the kind of hysteria. He's not been like that at all. And I think his comments after the game about it impressed me again because he just basically said you need to have emotional control when you're out on the pitch. What I
Yeah,
take from that is that he said it might be a red card, it might not be, but you've put yourself in that position and you've put us as a team in that position because
yeah.
they lose the goal, their heads go, they lose the goal straight after that, and there's no way back for them, and that's kind of where I think the anger for Tolino will kick in because he's
Well,
like, we're 11 men, we maybe don't lose that game, we've no chance now.
no. Well, I know that again. I have a contrasting view. That Steve thinks it's a yellow card.
Mm-hmm.
He's not for a red. Before our chats, and that's what it's good. Where we can disagree and we can give our own opinion, and some people side on one side of the fence, others other. For me, say it's not a and the wording of the law is strikes or attempts to strike. It doesn't say how hard you hit them or if you went to hit them and you missed them. Strikes or attempts to strike, you think of a punch, you think of an elbow, you think of some of that. But going with your head, it's just
Yeah,
stupidity.
it's just putting yourself in a position where the referee's going to make a decision one way or the other, and I think once he sees the head, I think that's kind of I can't really complain about it to be honest. I think it's interesting that Steve says it's a yellow, and I'd love to know why he thought that. But it's an interesting one. But let us know your thoughts below if you think it was a yellow or a red. Let's move into St Johnstone 1, Dundee 3. Big result for Dundee. St Johnstone's issues become further and further. But there was a couple of wee incidents here that I wanted to touch on. The first goal was a bit of a, I mean, it's definitely a mess from the goalkeeper. I don't think there's any
Yeah,
getting around that. But there was a lengthy VAR check that they thought he was maybe interfered with. I think looking at this in depth, I don't like saying it because I do have a lot of sympathy for goalkeepers, especially in positions like that when there's bodies everywhere. But he makes a bit of a mess of it.
yeah. I think he did as well. I think it was a Josh Ray. He's
Mhm.
came for the ball. He's at the central defender's actually the one that's closest to him.
Yeah,
And he sort of ducks out it. The Dundee player comes round the back. He's come out to get it. He's not taken full grasp of it. He's dropped it. There's still more players there. He was never in control of the ball at any point in time. So for me, yeah, it was a goal. I know it was a wee bit lengthy, but they got the right decision.
yeah,
So I don't have an issue with that. And as we looked at the Hearts Motherwell game last week as well, where the goalkeepers went for the ball, where he's surrounded by his own players. So yeah, and not to not protect goalkeepers, but I'm quite glad to see that they're not treated as princesses. That's they're there on the part. They can come out with their knee high up and think they can clean out players half the time.
yeah. That was absolutely the Harold Schumacher thing. Uh, Also in this game, there was a 2 minute check for offside for the second goal. Again, like we do say, oh, we wish it wouldn't take as long, but again, they come to the right decision. It's an offside, so they can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
But again, it's just I've not got an issue with I've not got a massive issue with how long it takes. My issue is though is when it's clear if it's clear that it shouldn't take long. We see it firsthand, but at times it's as if sometimes they go looking for stuff,
Yeah.
and that's kind of my issue. I don't think it happens here, but I think when you see a lengthy VR check, my first thought is, are they looking at more stuff to try and are they looking for ways to use the technology?
So we usually always say they're looking for fancy ways to chop off goals.
Yeah,
I thought it was quite clear that
it looks,
Sanders was almost on the edge of the 6 yard box, and
yeah,
there was two Dundee players. Simon Murray's went in for the diving header, and the Dundee boy, who's in very good form, he was at the back post. So I think
yeah.
it's quite clear that it was onside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously Dundee look very good, whereas St Johnstone don't look very good at the moment. But we'll move into Dundee United now. Hearts 1. Just the one kind of incident here, and I think the old timer will think this is very, very kind of clever defending. I think there's a lot of people who'll go, is this an obvious goal scoring opportunity? Declan Gallagher kind of brings down James Wilson, who looks to be through and goal. Declan Gallagher kind of pulls him back. A yellow's given. I've seen a few people saying this should have been a red. Where are you at that?
No, I'm for a yellow. The reason being for him for a yellow, A, he's quite a distance from goal, and B, the ball wasn't, well, B and C. B, he wasn't in control of the ball. The ball was still in flight and it was going beyond. But the direction the ball was heading, not towards the penalty area, but to between the penalty area and the corner flag. So he still had an awful lot of work to do. So the goal scoring opportunity wasn't obvious. So it's a clever foul. Declan Gallagher's shown his experience. What would you say, taking one for the team?
Yeah, there's stuff like this I like. Like, I like things like this. Like, obviously, you can say, would Wilson get it? I'm not sure he would, but I just like it's classic defending, isn't it? It's pulling him back and taking the booking, and doesn't really work out in the end. But
you're almost walking up to the referee, going like, aye, thanks very much, no bother. Gallagher, number 5.
Move on.
Yeah.
And again, it's a big result for Hearts. And United, I think, will be quite disappointed they didn't get anything from the game, but I think it kind of eases a lot of tension at Hearts at the moment. Into the kind of final game of the weekend, I will just say I got a message during this game from somebody who was covering it from a Kilmarnock perspective, and his words to me were it was the worst game of football he's ever been in his life. Now, he's obviously looking at that from a Kilmarnock perspective, and fair enough to him, but Kilmarnock 0, Ross County 1. The only thing that I looked at here was a potential handball from Randall. It wasn't given. VAR check it and move on. What do you think?
Nah. There was a couple of, he's hit the ball into the ground, and there was a couple of deflections before it's come up and hit. See if it went direct and hit the player who's maybe got an opportunity to remove his arms, or if he puts his arms out wide. But there was a couple of ricochets, deflections off it. So you can't well, I would like to think that common sense proves that you can't legislate where that ball's going to spin off your teammate. And it all happened in such close proximity with the players. So yeah, quite happy with that. There was a couple of deflections before hitting the arm. So correct decision not to award a penalty. Not sure Derek McInnes will agree with me, but
I think again, he doesn't really mention his post match. It
was
one of those that was just kind of like it was there, and kind of like that was the only thing in the game that really was contentious. But obviously, if you're Ross County, 400 miles coming down, but 3 days after Christmas, it's quite a happy result for them, I would say, after New Year. Sorry.
It's a better journey back up the road, isn't it?
And it puts them in a reasonable position now. I would say. I think that whole 5th to 11th. I mean, I'm not going to say it too early, but I think St Johnstone need a miracle to stay up. I think they look doomed.
Unless they bring on a Ross County sort of run of form, or a Hibs run of form.
Yeah, and even at that, you're thinking there's other teams above them who are potentially underperforming, who are going to hit a run at some point. And I'm looking at Hearts, Kilmarnock. I think it's very, very tough to see anything other than St Johnstone, but it does make an interesting kind of shape of the league. Like looking at Celtic are 13 points clear now. The United above Aberdeen in goal difference, which again kind of shows just how poor Aberdeen have been since their winning run came to an end. The early chat was, could they finish second? If they don't get out of this rut, top 6 could be an issue.
Not now, they won't be. Yeah, top 6. I think, don't get me wrong, I think they showed at the start of the season what they can do. So I'd like to think that they could return that form again. But it just depends on the tide that other teams are going at that moment in time as well, the form that they're carrying into it.
And you're looking at St Mirren 27 points in 6th, and then you've got Hearts in 11th and 23. There's only 4 points between 6 places. So again, it is very much up in the air, and it makes for an exciting kind of period in the Premiership. We've got some games in midweek. Celtic played Dundee United. Kilmarnock played Motherwell on Wednesday. And then Thursday night, Dundee versus Rangers. And we'll record on Sunday after some good games actually this weekend. You've got Hibs, Motherwell, Aberdeen, Hearts, Ross County, Celtic's obviously Telly, Rangers play St Johnstone on Sunday as well. It's shaping up to a good weekend, and we're kind of back to normal after that. There's some midweek games, but we've got Saturdays, then we've got Scottish Cup action. I'm looking forward to actually Scottish Cup. I think there'll be 16 games we could talk about. There'll probably be a few managers in contact about, can we get, I know for a fact there'll be a couple from kind of lower divisions that want to be involved, and hopefully a decision kind of doesn't go their way and they can get a bit of publicity on the show. But yeah, we're back for that. Des, always a pleasure, mate. We'll see you next week.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And follow us on Twitter and Facebook on the Ref's View, and as always, subscribe to SM Media's Twitter channels as well, YouTube as well. You'll find us all on there. Thank you very much.